while to come through, hasn't it, to see Christopher Vevell at Chelsea. But yeah, he's finally joined. I think he left Leipzig 2 months ago, but they've been working through kind of his work permit issues. You know, he has to come from Germany to the UK, so that's been kind of the hold-up. But it kind of completes what Chelsea are trying to build, which is sort of a transfer committee. You know, in the summer, the new owners, they did the transfer themselves, but now they want sort of expertise there. So Christopher Vevell, he joins Joe Shields, who came from Southampton. Brighton staff as well have come alongside Graham Potter, Kyle McCauley, and Paul Winstanley. And from Monaco, they've got a guy in called Lawrence Stewart. So all these guys are going to come together and kind of be the new face of Chelsea transfers. And I think that, you know, the new owners will work alongside these people, but Christopher Vevell is a huge part of that. You know, he's going to come in as a technical director, having done it at a brilliant project, the Red Bull project, that kind of oversees Leipzig and Red Bull Salzburg.
Is he more impressive, going to be more better at this job than Petr Cech and Marina Granovkaia? Why him?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. But I think the way Chelsea used to operate under Roman Abramovich with Petr Cech and Marina Granovkaia is going to be quite different to how they'll operate now. So Chelsea want to grow further. They want to be a multi-club model, a bit like Manchester City, a bit like Red Bull, a bit like Monaco. So they've hired a lot of these guys who have expertise doing that. So expect to hear in the future that Chelsea may be trying to buy a club. They're trying in France, they're trying in Brazil, and maybe some other markets. Portugal's another one. So they want to kind of, you know, build this network of clubs that's going to feed in the talent. Maybe they'll loan players there as well. So you'll hear them buying a lot of players to go on loan or to play for these other clubs, and maybe they'll come back to Chelsea in the future. So the Chelsea being transformed here completely, and that's what these guys are going to do. The other thing they want to do is be more data-driven, be more sort of progressive with their transfers. In the past, Chelsea have kind of just done what Roman Abramovich wants to do, what Marina Granovkaia wants to do. I think in the future, it's going to be more of a collaborative approach. That's why they've got so many sporting directors, guys who have expertise using data, modern scouting, modern techniques. So, I can't criticize the old regime because they won so much, and the ambition of the new regime to keep winning as well. But we'll see if it kind of progresses them on. And I think that they need to step up a little bit because Manchester City are dominating the Premier League. And I think that in the end, Chelsea want to be competing up there with Manchester City, taking some of those Premier League titles off them.
Yeah, that data-driven idea was prominent in those quotes we read out from Vevell there. But also, Graham Potter was significantly prominent in those as well. So what is Vevell's job description, and how integral is it, this relationship with Graham Potter, and what does that tell us?
Yeah, I think Vevell is going to kind of bring this sort of data idea. You know, I think the best club in the world at this, was Leipzig. Those signings you went through earlier, they're hard to find. You know, they knew the best player coming out of Croatia. They seem to do it time and again, getting the best young players, getting in there before the big clubs. So I think Chelsea want to be in that conversation. They want to be fighting people like RB Leipzig, RB Salzburg for the best young players, because what happens when Chelsea don't do that is they end up paying 70, 80 million for these players. They're paying way over the odds. They want to get in there a bit earlier. And these guys, the experts at that. So I think they want to kind of have their cake and eat it. They still want to do the big transfers that they've always been known for, that people love Chelsea for. But I think sometimes they want to get in there with these best wonder kids. They want to be signing Erling Haaland before he joins RB Salzburg. So they want to kind of get in this sort of area, save themselves some money, maybe, sell some young players on as well to help the bottom line, and kind of create a business here that can really dominate in football, a bit like Man City are doing. So I think that's the idea. The multi-club model is part of that. And I think that sort of it's well underway as well. That they're in conversations to buy these clubs abroad. They've been doing meetings in Qatar to try and get the signings in earlier, younger. There's one signing, David Datro Fofana, a guy you might not have heard of from Molde, who they're working on now, 6.8 million. He might not come in straight away, but maybe in a few years' time he'll be a Chelsea player, and that might be something they can do. So they're trying to get these guys younger and cheaper, and maybe see them, grow into superstars for the future. Yeah,
Leipzig citing contrasting views as to the reason why he left them. What do we know about what happened there? And does that leave a slight question mark over him?
Yeah, I think that Leipzig didn't fight to keep him. You know, the thing about Leipzig is they have so many of these guys, right? So if he steps aside, there's somebody to come up. There's a model as well in terms of how their staff goes. You know, they're always replacing people internally. People are getting promotions. You know, you look across football, there's Leipzig people everywhere. I know, like, the club in Italy, Genoa, is run by a guy from the RB Leipzig project. You've got Manchester United had a manager last season who came from RB Leipzig. So these guys come from far and wide. They're everywhere. There's loads of guys in Liverpool who've been part of this project as well. So, you know, that's kind of how they are. They let these guys step aside sometimes. I think they were a little bit annoyed with how Vivell handled his departure. But I think Chelsea don't really care about that. They just want to get the guy in. And hey, they wanted these guys in before the January transfer window, and they've ended up getting a few of them in before then. The others are on gardening leave and waiting to join. So I think it's mission accomplished from a Chelsea point of view.
Talk about the transfers then, and 11 days before the window opens, so he's coming in at a poignant time. You mentioned Gvardiol. I'm right in saying, because I've spoken to them, a lot of Chelsea fans would love to see him at Stamford Bridge. Could they get him?
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll be more one for the summer, but certainly maybe you'll see Chelsea doing a lot of deals early. I think Manchester City are also the masters of that, so they'll maybe agree a deal in January for the player to join in the summer. So I would put Gvardiol in that category. They want to win that race. They are competing with Manchester City on that front, maybe Real Madrid as well. So that's a big one. But they've already agreed a deal for Christopher Nkunku from RB Leipzig. And you know, Vivell probably helps them with those conversations with Leipzig. You know, he knows how they do things, how they do business, what kind of release clauses there are on these players. You know, I think today there's a bit of news out of Germany that Gvardiol will cost about £90 million, which is a lot, but he's the top defender that you might want. So, yeah, there's those kind of conversations that need to be had. I think Chelsea are going to work on other areas, maybe a little bit short at the striker position now. Armando Broja, he got injured in a friendly against Aston Villa ahead of the sort of restart of the Premier League after the World Cup. So these are the kind of areas that Chelsea need to work on with Vivell and the rest of the recruitment team.
Okay, can you put a name to that one? Because that Broja injury looks a bad one, doesn't it? He's definitely going to be out for this season. They are light up front.
Yeah, can they get Nkunku from Dortmund? That's one thing I'm looking at the moment. He's available on a free transfer at the end of the season. It might mean sort of paying the money now, paying extra just to make sure you win the race over other clubs. But there's a lot of competition there for him. João Felix is on the market as well. So, again, sort of Atletico Madrid are asking for a lot of money for a permanent transfer, but loan with option might be possible. So I think that might be an area they look at as well. Chelsea have great links to George Mendes, who's sort of Cristiano Ronaldo's agent as well as João Felix. I don't think they'll go for Ronaldo, so that's an option that's definitely available. I think Ronaldo's waiting for a kind of club like a Chelsea to come for him, but it's just not happening for him. And I think he's only got the Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr, their offer on the table, so he might take that. So those are the kind of players that I'm looking at. They've got David Datro Fofana quite close to tied up. He's that Mulder striker I mentioned earlier. He's coming, you know, an Ivory Coast international, come in as a 19-year-old. Maybe they go for a player like that who can just sort of fill in as a backup striker for Aubameyang. So those are the names I'm looking at. It's not for certain at the moment. They also need to plan a little bit forward for midfield, where Declan Rice is a major target, and they've got Jorginho and Kante's contracts expiring in the summer. So loads of work to do for these sporting directors like Vivell.
So lovely.